Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, I want to talk about a conversation that I have today with a homeowner and so many mistakes that homeowners do whenever they're trying to sell the house. So, let's get into it. The first thing that we need to know whenever we're selling a house, we need to sell the house three times. We're not selling the house one, we're selling the house three times. What are those times? Number one, we need to sell the house on the price because most of the sales, or I would like to say all the sales, they start with the price. Whenever somebody is looking to buy a house, to buy a car, to buy anything they're looking for, they're looking to buy based on the price. The only time that you don't need to consider the price is when there's something unique about the item that you're looking to buy. Let's say you're looking to buy a Lamborghini. Okay, of course, you don't care too much about the price because you're buying the item, the icon, something like that. Let's say you want to buy a gamer computer. Okay, you're looking for something specific, so you don't mind paying more or you don't focus too much on the price whenever you're trying to buy that thing. But whenever somebody is buying something common, something that is a standard sale, is not something unique, most of the time, I would like to say 99% of the time, people are gonna make decisions based on the price. So the first the first time that we need to sell the house is on the price. Number two, inspection. Everybody make an inspection on the house today. We're past those times where people were not doing the inspection on the properties. So nowadays people are doing inspection. That's the second time that we need to sell the house. Why? Because the buyer, I'm sorry, they're gonna come back a lot of time. Most of the time they come with repair requests. They found that there's problem with the HVAC, there's problems with the water heater, there's problem with something. So they need to come back and renegotiate. So at that point, you guys are trying to get to a common ground to agree on any repair concession. If you want the seller to make the repairs, if you want the seller to pay you, so you can do the repairs later on. But at that point, we need to agree for the second time on the price of the house based on the repairs or the credit that the buyer is going to ask the seller. And you need to get a common ground. So that's the second time that we're actually going to sell the house. Now, the third time, that's going to be the appraisal. The house needs to appraise. I don't care how much you think the house is worth. Well, I do care. But I don't pay too much attention on how much you think the house is worth it, because at the end of the day, the appraisal is the one that is going to base the value of the property. So that's the third time that we need to sell the property. We need to meet the appraisal value. Now, how do you do that? Well, we need to look on the market, what's going on the market. Is the houses are listing for more, but then they're selling for less. So which most of the realtors nowadays, they get anywhere between 93 to 96% of the listing price. So that means if you put the house for 100, it is selling anywhere between 93 to 96. So that is the average percentage that the average realtor is selling the houses for. What that means, that they're going for the higher number, and then they need to come to terms that the market is telling them, hey, I'm not worth the 100, I'm worth the 93. So you need to figure it out. So that is the third time that we need to sell the house. Now, what is the actual problem? Why do I say that we need to sell the house three times? Well, what happened? If we don't agree on the price on the first time, then the house is not going to sell. Okay, so I need to sell the first time, so the second and the third one can happen. The second and the third one doesn't happen if the first one doesn't happen. Okay, then we need to sell the house again on the inspection. If they don't like, if they don't come to terms on the inspection, then it doesn't matter that I sell the house the first time. If I didn't sell the house on the second time, the house is not going to sell. Now, let's say we agree on the price, we do the inspection, and then the buyer want to continue with the purchase. If it doesn't meet value, then we need to renegotiate, and you have two options. Either you don't accept, don't agree on the terms, cancel the contract, and put the house back on the market. But now we're on square one. We need to sell the house again on the price. So if this one doesn't happen, then it doesn't matter that the first two times you were able to sell the house. The third one doesn't happen. If it doesn't appraise value, the lender, the bank, is not going to give you the money to purchase the price, because they're going to pay just the fair value of the property, because that's the risk that they're putting their money on. So that's why we need to sell the house 3 times. Okay, keep that in mind. 3 times we need to sell the house. What is going to happen? We can start, and this is something that I talk to a lot of my clients. If you don't agree on the price that I'm telling you based on the data that I'm finding on the MLS, then I'm not going to be the right fit for you. So don't do that. If you had a realtor that is not telling you the actual truth, don't think that you're gonna sell the house just because you like it. I understand it's your house, but the house is gonna sell for whatever the price is gonna sell. So we're not gonna be able to manipulate the market, because it is what it is. So this is something that I like saying, that the actual value of any item is whatever the seller is willing to sell and the buyer is willing to pay. The seller is willing to pay to sell for, let's say, $300,000, but if the buyer is not willing to pay the $300,000, then it's not the value of the property. So whatever the seller is willing to sell and the buyer is willing to pay, whatever point those two merge, that is the actual value of any item. In this case, I'm talking about properties, but of any value. So keep that in mind. Don't try to overprice the property, because in reality, you're actually losing money, because the longer the house stays on the market, that's gonna raise a red flag on the potential buyer, and it's gonna say, hey, what is the problem with the house? Why is it not selling? Is there any HVAC problems, roofing, there's a leak? So they don't know. They're not gonna think that the house is just overpriced. They're gonna think that there's some problem with the property. So remember, we need to sell the house 3 times, not 1, not 2, 3 times. Price, inspection, and appraisal. Keep that in mind. Check it out.